Hello, my name is Luke Ruffing. I'm from beautiful Maine, and this is my Praxis application video. I want to thank you for taking the time to review it, and I can't wait to get started. First question you have for me is, who are you and what is your story? My story begins in a Colorado hospital. Shortly after I was born, my father put a Titleist golf ball in my hands, and from then on, I was hooked on golf. We grew up in a small 750 square foot apartment in Golden, Colorado. And the best part about that apartment is it had vaulted ceilings. So my father was in there swinging a club. He was in his mid 20s, and I was watching him. And as soon as I was able to, I picked up a club and just started swinging. That was followed shortly by trips to the driving range, where I'd take a plastic club, hit the ball 20, 30 yards, and I absolutely loved it. The feeling of impact, the pure sound of the ball just coming off the face. I was absolutely addicted to it. I grew up playing all sorts of different sports. I played soccer, baseball, basketball. Going through that with all my teammates in Colorado was fantastic. Up until the time I was 8. At that point, I moved to Maine. I was the oldest of 6 homeschooled children, so that made the transition a lot easier for me. I didn't have to switch schools or anything, so that did make things a lot easier for me. I want to thank my parents for that because they're just so understanding and able to just make that process go so much more smoothly for me. Once I moved to Maine, the winters got a lot harsher up here for sure. Definitely shortened my sports seasons. It was very, very different up here. I really got to play baseball seriously for the first time up here. I enjoyed that all throughout my career, up until the end of high school, where I played all 4 years on varsity. I was a second baseman, so I was always a defensive specialist. I wasn't great hitting instead of just see ball, hit ball. I was wanted to be on the defensive end where you have to analyze what's the count, what's the pitcher going to throw, where the runners are, where are they going to move. So it's decision making and analyzing situations where I was able to get into that, and that was where I was addicted. Because I'd see all my other teammates just standing there in their one spot, and I was moving all around, anticipating where the ball was going to go. And I was always backing up on plays, hustling. Uh, I was elected captain by my coach during my senior year because I always would lead by example. I was the first one to practice every day, last one to leave. And I'd always make it a point of pride for myself to be putting in full effort the whole time I was there. Uh, I believe that if you're paid to do a job or you choose something that you should do it 100%. The next question you have for me is, what value would I bring to the company? I would bring that desire and work ethic to it. Also, my creative thinking skills and abilities to analyze situations and make the be able to reach decisions in an effective manner as soon as I could. Working for LLB in the past couple winters was my first real job. I had to learn an old complex computer system, and they graded you on speed and accuracy. Uh, During my first year, I was able to reach over 20 units an hour when the expected minimum for first years was 12. So that put me right up there in the top of the class for just speed and accuracy. It also gave me a great opportunity just to store away some money, so that way I could pursue golf during the summers. The biggest difference between myself and my high school peers was work ethic. I was always there early, stayed late, and it was not goofing off when we had work to be done. With the sports teams, they'd all be in a cluster over there just talking amongst themselves, where I'd be taking extra ground balls or doing extra sprints, whatever it took to stay in shape and really gain an edge. Fourth question you have for me is, what is the hardest thing you've ever had to do? The hardest thing I've ever had to do was moving to Maine as a child. Making the transition from the rather mild winters of Colorado when you weren't in the mountains. Moving up here, it was very difficult. You were stuck inside for months on end. Also, changing up here, meeting the different kids. Once you're able to get to know them, they were fantastic guys, but at first they're definitely a little rough around the edges. They wouldn't embrace you. I got a lot of pushback because I was different, being homeschooled, and it was really tough for me because my whole high school career, they always put me on a pedestal, like, oh, he's working. People don't like it when you outwork them. That's what I found, and I've always been a guy to put in full effort and to outwork people. I take a pride in that. So that was the hardest thing I ever had to do. Fifth question you had for me is, what would I do with $1 million? If I had $1 million, I would start my own custom putter company. I was reading an article in Golf Digest about this guy. He bought a milling machine off Craigslist, and he started custom designing his own putters. He would shape the heads, do the weighting. He would do different paint fills for customers. He'd go through them and give them different finishes. He'd give them an oil head look, a copper look, a stainless steel finish. And then he'd have to adjust all the balances to get the correct performance out of them. So I just found that absolutely fascinating. So in order to do that, I'd have to be able to apprentice with a couple of putter makers, putter designers, to see what it actually takes to go into the head, along with the shaft and the grip, to balance everything out to make sure it rolls properly. And I would want to apprentice with them for a couple years, and then I'd be hoping to go out on my own and create my own brand and identity, and then eventually get a couple putters to be played on the PGA Tour by a couple tour pros. And I really want to thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to hear back from you soon. Thanks again.